one game away. Blow up. We're playing for something, man. We're playing for something. It's got to mean something to you. It got to mean something. Everything you got. Everything you got. Let's finish this.
Do it, fellas.
Let's go.
Let's do it, fellas.
Finish 2-3. 1, 2, 3. Finish.
Why is success a bad thing? Why, if you're a millionaire, you're evil. If you're a billionaire, you're the Antichrist. Why? Because of their pathetic jealousy. That's all it is. Jealousy. Seth, you're worried? You're worried that some people don't like you in the locker room? Hell, if you ain't making enemies, you ain't making money. If everybody doesn't hate you, then you are not living up to your full potential. And everybody here wants to say, well, at least you'll sleep well at night. Sleep? Who has time for sleep? I would rather eat well than sleep well. I would rather drive a nice car, fly in a private plane, live in a mansion, live the good life, Seth. You get one shot at life, one shot, one go around in this world. You take life and you grab it by the throat and you make it give you everything you want and screw everybody else.
I'm reading these reports that Bobby Wagner is visiting the Rams, and I'm looking at these tweets on Twitter where it's like Rams fans talking about, can't wait to wake up and see Bobby Wagner sign with the Rams, and I'm wondering to myself, why am I seeing this shit, man? Baltimore, what are you doing, man? Like, bro, why is Bobby Wagner not a Raven, bro? I'm racking my brain trying to understand that. Like, Bobby Wagner is a Ozzie Newsome signing, if I've ever seen one. Like, Ozzie Newsome would have hopped on that. And I really don't understand what we doing after we didn't get him money till it's Darius Smith, yo. I'm so disappointed. What I'm more disappointed in is these, and I really don't want to go hard on Raven fans because I am a Raven fan myself, but, you know, man, I'm just starting to think it's a part of this fan base that's a bunch of morons or bozos or goofs or dumbasses or just jackasses. Either way, some of the shit that y'all are saying makes absolutely no fucking sense to me. No sense whatsoever. Like, how Tyreek Hill was traded to the Miami Dolphins. Now, for one, Baltimore Ravens have no shot at getting Tyreek Hill. Not because they can't. Because I've been a Baltimore fan my whole life, I know they won't put themselves in the running to even get a Tyreek Hill. Because Baltimore doesn't go out and get number one receivers. They don't go out and get proven veteran number one receivers. They don't do that. They wait for dudes to get to the end of their career and sign them, or they try to take chances with rookies and shit like that. But they don't go out and sign Julio Joneses or make trades for DK Metcalf, who I don't think is a legitimate number one receiver right now. But he's better than the receivers on Baltimore. They don't go out and trade for Odell Beckham Jr. They don't go out and trade for Jarvis Landry, who is not even a number one receiver, but is a number two receiver who could have helped Baltimore. And they don't even go out and make that type of play. They could go out and sign Jarvis Landry right now, and they haven't done it. Baltimore's inability, or not, it's not even inability. It's just a refusal at this point. A refusal to go out and sign other teams. It don't fucking matter about other teams. The refusal to go out and sign take chances on proven veteran number one receivers. Like, you take chances on unproven guys all the time, which for the life of me, I cannot understand. Like, I can't understand that. Like, people think that Les Snead quote of "fuck them picks" is just like a funny quote or something like that. No, that's legit. You banking on rookies and young dudes who you do not know how great they will be in the NFL. You're just projecting. But the fact of the matter is, the way this game truly is starting to run, You get those picks. You trade those picks away for proven great players who can help you right now. The picks that you traded away, maybe a team draft those players with those picks and they become great players. You know what you do? The bad teams that draft those great players and develop them, you trade the future picks you get down the line after you used up the picks that you used to get those great players. Once those great players are no longer great and then they go to a different team and you got a whole bunch of picks again now, you trade those picks to bring back those players that you would have drafted. Now that they are great, you're going to trade those picks to bring them over now. Because now those great players who done developed are going to be tired of playing for bad teams and going to want to play for a good team. And if you are still a good team who now have an opening, you're going to bring those great players back. And the players that you traded for before will probably go to those bad teams to make big money. You see how that cycle go? So I don't understand this thing where Baltimore like to hoard draft picks and shit like that. Ultimately, for them to turn into nothing or not game-changing players. Like, I cannot, and it's receivers out there who Baltimore could have made a play for, could have decided to. Like, when is the last time Baltimore legitimately tried to get a receiver? A number one proven receiver, where they was in the running for a number one proven receiver, where they could legitimately say Baltimore came down to the last two teams to try to get this receiver. Never. Because Baltimore never tries to make that play to help their quarterback. For some reason, Baltimore is so obsessed with playing like a Raven, or the Ravens' way of playing defense and running, as if we still playing back in the day football, is just mind-blowing. The refusal to evolve as an organization is something that I do not think people talk about enough when it comes to the Baltimore Ravens. This team, this organization is holding Lamar Jackson back. And is Lamar Jackson going to go out there and say that? No. But that's also not his job to go out there and say that. This organization should realize that they are holding him back at this point. People get so excited when Baltimore signed dudes like Marcus Williams. And Marcus Williams is a great player. And he does help Lamar Jackson if he is great on defense and gets turnovers and does his job. But he does not directly help Lamar Jackson on offense. For some reason, people get excited about when Baltimore make those type of signings, when they willing to go out and sign big for defensive players. But year after fucking year, you see these receivers are not good enough, and they refuse to go out and get a proven number one veteran receiver. They made Joe Flacco go through that, and now Lamar Jackson having to go through that. It's insane. And you got these idiot Baltimore fans who it was legitimately a tweet from a Baltimore Raven fan who said, we don't need Tyreek Hill. We got our own Tyreek Hill and Marquise Brown. What? What kind of bullshit statement is that? It's no shot. I'm telling you, one of the worst things that could have happened this year was Marquise Brown got that lazy 1,000-yard season, bro. Because listen, the season started off hot for him. But it did not end hot. But people can use that shit as bad receivers or average receivers get 1,000-yard seasons all the time. I'm just go ahead and tell you. I mean, the way the NFL is nowadays. But And Baltimore done this shit for so long, ran their organization this way. They got fans buying into this bullshit, thinking that this shit is cool, like, oh, it's all right. And all the fans going to do eventually when Lamar Jackson get to a point where teams have gotten so much better that it's no way he can just carry a team by himself anymore the way he done the last couple years. That people will start blaming Lamar Jackson. The fans will start blaming Lamar Jackson because of what Baltimore is doing. Fans love to blame Joe Flacco and his contract. What the fuck did Baltimore ever do to help Joe Flacco? Dennis Pitta was hurt all the time. They never went out and got another number one tight end. The receiving core. People keep talking about Steve Smith Sr. Bro, Steve Smith Sr. was at the end of his career. He had one good year for us, was hurt the next year, and then was, in and out of the lineup the last year he was with us. Like, what did they do for Joe Flacco, truly, to try to elevate his game? What are they doing for Lamar Jackson? The Miami Dolphins, and I don't know if they'll keep Devontae Parker or not, but they went out and drafted Jalen Waddle. They got Mike Gesicki. I'm pretty sure they're going to re-sign him if they haven't already. And then they make a big trade for Tyreek Hill. Do they think Tua Tagovailoa is the guy? I don't know. But I know what whether they think he is or not, it's going to help him tremendously to have Tyreek Hill. They go out and get Chase Edmonds, who's a good running back. And a good receiving back, I believe. If I'm not confusing him, I might be thinking of I might be thinking of James Conner. Either way, I think Chase Edmonds is a good running back. Or a good player, let me put it like that. I think Miami has a great offensive core. Now, I'm not really the biggest believer in Tua Tagovailoa because I do believe he has limitations to his game that I do think could affect this team in the long run, much like Baker. Like, when Cleveland made the decision, that's not what I want to say. When Cleveland started putting all these weapons around Baker Mayfield, and they basically put together a Super Bowl roster where the only thing that could stop them from winning the Super Bowl was the quarterback, and that's exactly what happened. The quarterback just was not good enough. Like, people could say, oh, the secondary, this and that. That team was good enough to get to a Super Bowl. I mean, we legit done seen two teams get to the Super Bowl 2 years in a row without an offensive line. Baker Mayfield had the weapons. He just wasn't good enough. But we saw the Browns put so many things and weapons around Baker Mayfield to try to get the best out of him. So that maybe if he couldn't rise to the occasion, maybe the dudes around him could play so good that he wouldn't have to rise to the occasion. Now, none of the running backs on Miami, and this is no disrespect to the running backs on Miami, but they have not shown to be what Nick Chubb or Kareem Hunt is, for that matter. So, I will say that. But, regardless, Miami has still put a pretty good offensive weaponry around Tua Tagovailoa. You look at Josh Allen. They went out and got Stephon Diggs, a top receiver in the NFL. You look at Kyler Murray. They go out and get DeAndre Hopkins. They go get Zach Ertz. They signed A.J. Green. Now, A.J. Green didn't turn out to be what they wanted him to be, but they did take a chance on a proven veteran receiver. Now, A.J. Green wasn't the number one receiver, so, you could argue me with that one, and you could argue that one, and you could probably win that one. I'm not going to lie to you. But I got a certain respect for A.J. Green because I seen A.J. Green every single second of his prime because he played against Baltimore twice a year. But you just look at all these different quarterbacks with the weapons. You got the Chargers, who got Austin Eckler and two great outside receivers, and I believe they still got Jared Cook over there at tight end, but they got Keenan Allen and Williams on the outside for Herbert. You look at Joe Burrow. He got Higgins, Boyd, and he got Mixon and Jamar Chase. Who else? Kirk Cousins. He got Thielen. He got Justin Jefferson. He got Cook. Who else? We can just keep going. Even the dude over there in the Texans, Davis Mills, got Brandon Cooks. And I'm not the biggest fan of Brandon Cooks, but Brandon Cooks is better than the receivers on Baltimore currently is, in my opinion. And I don't really like throwing Rashad Bateman in that, but he is unproven. Like, I'm not saying he's not a good receiver. He won't be a great receiver. He won't be a number one receiver. Right now, he's unproven, though. You know what I'm saying? Compared to guys who are, DK Metcalf. I don't think DK Metcalf is a legit number one receiver yet. Better than the receivers on Baltimore. Not to mention, they still went out and got a DK for Russell Wilson. It's so many teams. The fucking Broncos went out and got Drew Lock receivers. Drew Lock just not that guy. Or Teddy. It's so many teams that you see make plays for receivers for their quarterbacks. Baltimore just is not a team doing that. They signed Sammy Watkins last year. How many? This is turning into a situation. Now, it's hard to even say it's turning into this because the Packers got Devontae Adams. Now, granted, they drafted Devontae Adams, but still, they did get Devontae Adams, and he became the number one receiver in the NFL. And they kept him there for a while. And the Raiders just went out and got that man. The Raiders not only traded, I didn't only think they traded. They just picked up the Darren Waller from the Baltimore's practice squad or whatever. And so they got him, developed him, got him, and helped him get on the right path, and helped him with his life and whatnot, get his life together and whatnot. And I'm not saying they had a huge part in it, but, you know, I'm giving Darren Waller all the credit in the world for that. But they did still sign him. And they went out and just traded for fucking Devontae Adams to help Derek Carr. Like, so many fucking teams around the NFL have done things to help their quarterbacks. Not Baltimore. Baltimore has not done nearly enough. Bro, Baltimore don't even take chances on... They wouldn't even take a chance on a dude like Kenny Golladay. Now, people can say all they want to. Oh, Kenny Golladay didn't end up coming through this season, blah, blah, blah. Kenny Galladay's playing for a bad quarterback. He clearly signed with the Giants because of the fucking money. And he was hurt. I'm not going to crush Kenny Golladay because of that. Because when he had Matthew Stafford, he balled out. Shit, the Rams went and got Odell Beckham Jr. The Browns went out and got Odell Beckham Jr. at one point in time, and Jarvis Landry, and Austin Hooper. Like, what? Baltimore refuses to do any of that shit to help their quarterback. They just continue to expect Lamar Jackson to go out there and damn near kill himself every week for this team to get a win. And that's unacceptable. I just think this... regardless if it's them stuck in their ways on not just continuing to not understand that you cannot win a Super Bowl right now just by playing defense and running the ball, that you have to go out there and get your quarterback weapons. The fact that they refuse to give up draft picks and shit to go get these weapons. Like, bro, I promise you the Bills have not regretted for 1 second the draft picks they gave up to get Stephon Diggs. I promise you they have not regretted for 1 second the draft picks they gave up to go get Stephon Diggs. Because Stephon Diggs, being in Buffalo, has helped Josh Allen so much that it's worth more than the picks would have gotten you. There is no player they could have gotten the last couple drafts based on where those picks could have been or would have been that would have been worth more than not just the production that Stephon Diggs has brought to Buffalo, but how much he has helped Josh Allen grow to the quarterback that Josh Allen is right now. You're not trading that in for some fucking picks. Les Snead knew nothing that he drafted would bring the production that Von Miller and Stafford brought to this team right now. I don't understand when Baltimore is going to realize that. Baltimore has had teams that if they just made that one big trade for that one receiver, it would have gotten them over the hump. But they never fucking do it. And I don't expect them to do it. And that's the problem. That's why I want Lamar Jackson to leave. And if he do leave, and if he don't get re-signed within the next year or two, I truly believe he going to end up in Miami. He's from Florida. I don't think that if you, the Miami Dolphins, you put together a team like this, you invest in this type of team on offense, to have it go to waste with Tua Tagovailoa trying to get him to develop. If Tua don't bust out the frame this year, come out the gate running and, dominating, balling out early, I think they're going to look into trying to trade Tua or trade to bring over a proven quarterback who can get the job done. And if they sit around and realize that Lamar Jackson might not be re-signing with Baltimore, I truly believe that the Miami Dolphins would do everything possible to try to bring over Lamar Jackson. And if they wait long enough, if they play out the way it could play out long enough, they could have the draft picks back to be able to get be restocked enough with draft picks to be able to throw a huge offer at Baltimore. And you want to know what's funny? The offer that they would be able to give to Baltimore to bring over Lamar would not even have to include Tyreek Hill, because Bozo Baltimore does not give a fuck about bringing over number one proven receivers. They just don't want to do that. They're not willing to do that. If he not washed, and I don't want to say washed, if he not past his prime and can barely produce on a high level anymore, Baltimore has no need for him. They have to be able to be that type of receiver for them to sign him, because they're not taking chances on proven guys who are clearly still in their prime, who Baltimore can make trades for. Look at the receivers who done been proven number one veteran receivers, or dudes who we think are proven number one, even if they're not veteran, they're just young receivers who are proven number ones, who done been traded in the last couple of years, who Baltimore could have traded for when you realize what was traded to get them. And you realize Baltimore was never in the running because Baltimore makes no effort to try to make plays for these type of receivers. And you want to know what's the worst part about this? Because it's not even, I understand people saying, oh, why should they have to trade? Because Baltimore has to trade for them because Baltimore don't draft them. It'd have been one thing if Baltimore would have had a history of drafting receivers, being great at drafting proven receivers and developing receivers. They don't have that history. And they don't have a history of signing them either. That is a problem. Why would any quarterback ever want to play with the Baltimore Ravens? When you look at this organization and realize that they never help their quarterback out when it comes to a fucking receiver. A proven number one receiver just does not happen for this fucking team. The closest to a number one receiver a quarterback had was Joe Flacco's run when he had Anquan Bolden. And they traded the motherfucker away the next season. Baltimore refuses to have a number one receiver on the offense because for some reason they still believe they can win Super Bowls the way they won it in 2000 when they won it with running game and defense. Ignore the fact that Joe Flacco won them the Super Bowl that they won, and the run was not based off of the running game, but based off of how great Joe Flacco threw that football. Never mind that. Never mind the fact that Lamar Jackson clearly made leaps and bounds in the passing game, and if you gave him another one, a proven number one receiver, if you just paid the cost to go get one, that could clearly take his game and this offense's game to a whole nother level, but you refuse to do that. Could you imagine if Lamar Jackson had a number one proven receiver on the outside the defenses and teams had to worry about, and they could no longer just solely worry about Lamar Jackson? Imagine if a defense had to come into a game against Lamar Jackson worried about a Tyreek Hill, a Mark Andrews, and Lamar Jackson. Not just Lamar Jackson and Mark Andrews. But Baltimore don't think like that for some reason. They think they can just go get as many good defensive pieces as possible, and our quarterback will figure it out. And to me, nobody says anything about it. And I doubt anybody will say anything about it. But when you go, and Baltimore is hurting Lamar in so many ways. Like, Lamar Jackson can't control what people saying about him on the TV screens. He can't control that they're not going to bring up all the facts. But that's on Baltimore. But Baltimore refused to go get this man a number one receiver. I never see people get on the TV screen and talk about that, though. But they will talk about Lamar's shortcomings. They'll never talk about how these shortcomings could be fixed if he had a number one receiver, like a Josh Allen and a lot of these other quarterbacks. But Baltimore don't care about that. Running game and defense. When was the last time you won a Super Bowl off of that? Like, I don't get it. And I'm looking at these teams in the AFC. You got Justin Herbert in that offense over there with the Chargers, and now they have two pass rushers. I'm looking at Derek Carr, and I don't care how you may feel about Derek Carr. He is far above average, an above average quarterback who now has a number one receiver in Devontae Adams, with a Hunter Renfrow who will be a great number two, with a Darren Waller who is a phenomenal tight end, and Josh Jacobs, and Kenyon Drake is still over there. You're going up against a Russell Wilson who has a Jerry Jeudy, a Tim Patrick, a Courtland Sutton, Lindsey and Gordon, I believe. Patrick Mahomes, listen, I know I said that team could possibly finish in last in their division, but you still got Patrick Mahomes, and they just signed. Listen, Valdez-Scantling don't really move the needle for me. He struggled with Aaron Rodgers, so, I mean, it's hard for me to see him really having too much success with Pat Mahomes. But Juju Smith-Schuster, this offense will drop off to me when you lose a Tyreek Hill. But it's still Pat Mahomes with Travis Kelce. Like, I just look at all those fucking offenses, bro. The Bills with Stephon Diggs and all the other weapons that he got over there. Like, And Baltimore refuses to go. Like, I don't get it, bro. I don't get it. And I know there's people out there who gonna be like, well, they drafted Marquise Brown and they drafted Rashad Bateman. Bruh, this is how they continue to get y'all. They got y'all wrapped around their finger, bruh. They continue somehow convincing y'all that they are doing everything possible to put a great team around Lamar Jackson. But Greg Roman is still here. Explain that to me. They fired Dean Pease. They fired Wink Martindale last year. The motherfucker had damn near everybody on his defense hurt at one point in time. But they wouldn't fire Greg Roman, who specializes in the run game. The run game was atrocious last year when you take out Lamar Jackson's running yards. Mind you, at times last year, some of the offensive play calling, not last year, the last couple years, the play calling by Greg Roman has clearly not been good enough. Baltimore feels there's no need to let him go and upgrade at that position. Baltimore has become such an incompetent organization that was not clear until Lamar Jackson came onto the scene, and it's so very clear that he has outgrown this organization. That is sad because it's a mixture of him being great and other teams around the NFL either getting great or being great and maintaining their greatness, and realizing that for some reason Baltimore can keep hanging around the teams that's constantly in the playoffs, but for some reason they can't be one of those teams that's constantly contending in the Super Bowl, constantly getting to the AFC Championship game or the Super Bowl, because they never do they never willing to do what it takes to get over that hump, to get over that edge. I don't know how you look at this team all the time and never one time think to yourself, man, the number one proven receiver will really help this team right now. It could really take us places right now. Just because you don't want to pay him? Like, whoever it is up front with Baltimore at this point in time, and I know who it is, I'm being facetious, but the people running this team, they are outdated at this point. They are not coming to the game, into the seasons with a fresh way of thinking and shit. They are clearly not paying attention to what's going on in the NFL this year. And they continue to fall further behind, and it's costing Lamar Jackson. So I pray that either the Dolphins find a way to trade for him in the near future, or a team that knows that. Because what I think is going to happen, if the Dolphins don't end up trading for him in the future, there'll be another team out there who right now think to themselves, Lamar Jackson possibly could be a free agent or a trade option in a couple years. And they'll start putting together weapons on their team like the Dolphins doing right now. And they'll end up putting together a good enough team to where they have the draft capital, and they have enough aging great vets who still got something left in the tank that you can trade to be able to put together a package that'll get Lamar Jackson. I'm telling you right now. It's gonna happen. Like, Baltimore don't even feel like they call. I don't even feel like I have to even try to preference this by, saying different type of shit. It's, to me, very clear Baltimore don't even call around trying to see what veteran or stud number one receivers are out there to be traded for. Like, why would you not be calling to see if DK Metcalf could be a trade option? I just don't get it. And this episode wasn't even supposed to be a Baltimore Ravens episode, but check me out. The New York mandate has been lifted. Kyrie Irving is playing home games in Brooklyn, baby. Now, New York disrespectful, bro. At least to the Nets, bro. I don't know why KD signed with this fucking franchise. I'm starting to really agree with people that they should have just went to the Knicks, because they would have treated the Knicks with more respect than they do in Brooklyn. I'm almost certain that if Kyrie and KD was on the Knicks, that mandate would have got lifted a long time ago, just based off of how much New Yorkers love the Knicks. Bro, because of the Yankees, because that mandate was going to affect the Yankees and the Mets. The Yankees and the Mets especially have teams that you think could compete for a World Series this year. It wasn't no fucking way people in New York was going to allow those two teams to not have their best players playing at home games if they wasn't vaccinated. Could you imagine if Jacob deGrom and Max Scherzer were not vaccinated and could not play home games? Could you imagine if Garrett Cole or Aaron Judge or Giancarlo Stanton wasn't vaccinated and couldn't play home games? That'd be crazy. So they basically came up with the New York Yankees and the Mets rule. I'll just call it the Yanks rule, the Yankee rule, because I know most of the people in New York love the Yankees, but it was definitely the rule for them because they are more important than the fucking Brooklyn Nets. As soon as the news that came out that the New York Knicks that the Mets and the Yankees players would be affected by that mandate, I knew they was gonna fix the shit. I knew it. Now, Ben Simmons, herniated disc in his back. From what I'm looking at, reading the reports, that he still might try to play this year. So the Nets could be. Now, I don't think the Nets will end up winning this year. I do believe that they'll need a full year together, playing together for real to get it, to win. Not necessarily Kyrie and KD, but I don't like what I'm seeing from Kyrie and KD. And it's not necessarily them as much as it is Steve Nash. And I like Steve Nash to an extent, but I just don't think he done proven to be a great head coach yet. He doing too much of that shit that Scott Brooks did in OKC. Whereas I don't really have a legitimate offensive game plan. It's just let KD and Kyrie take turns working. And if they get you involved, they get you involved, and just run the basic basketball plays that we all know, like a screen here and there, set the pick here and there, run on the fast break here and there, peel out to the three, basic basketball IQ type shit. Nothing complex, no real basketball system. And I think that can work when you play against certain teams. Yeah, we saw OKC beat teams that just weren't talented enough to compete with a team like OKC that had that type of talent. But when you run into a team that's well coached, like OKC used to do against the Spurs or those Laker teams, then you lose those type of series, because now you playing against teams who have the talent that you have. And if they don't have the talent exactly, they might have a player that's just as great as your two players, because KD and Russ were young. But they got a coach and a system in place and a defensive philosophy in place that can stop you. Their offensive system can draw up a bucket rather than relying on one of the two dudes to go get a circus shot and one type of shot in the park to try to get a bucket. They can just rely on the system to get the bucket, to draw up a play to get the bucket. So I'm not really a fan of how that's going in Brooklyn right now. Listen, KD probably did have a lot to do with Steve Nash getting hired. But I really would like to see them go out and get a better head coach. But I'm starting to realize kind of in the NBA, head coaching don't truly matter as much as it does in the NFL. Now, I'm not saying that head coaching don't matter in the NBA, but I'm just saying I think it matters a little bit more in the NFL. Now, with that being said, people didn't think that Tyronn Lue was a good head coach. He clearly is a good head coach. He done proven to me over the last year that he is clearly a good head coach. I think that if the Suns, listen, Steve Nash could end up becoming a head coach, being allowed to, given the time to become a good head coach. But right now, I do think he need to do something with that. And you got D'Antoni on the bench, so I don't know, man. I don't like the system that they run in Brooklyn right now, and I just think that could get them into some trouble when they go up against a team that's, more organized and rely on the game plan and shit more so than they have to just rely on the best player at all times. You know what I'm saying? Like when the Bucks system is rolling and everybody is, doing what they supposed to do in the system, and they don't solely have to rely on Giannis. Not only can Giannis go crazy in that type of game, but then they can have those games where, okay, now we have a game off where Giannis is the only option, but it ain't all the time. When Giannis was having to do that bullshit by himself all the time, without a great system in place, it was just Giannis, let Giannis do Giannis. They wasn't winning. You get Drew Holiday, you put these motherfuckers in the actual system, You get them actually running legitimate plays and doing shit to actually set their guy up now to make the shit easier for him, because everybody else having rolls and shit, not just standing in the corner and shit. Well, now you get the type of shit you get right there with the Bucks winning the championship. Then you get the shit you get in Golden State with them winning the championship. That's what you get when you hit the Lakers in the triangle. That's what you get when you get Tim Duncan and those Spurs teams in that offense they ran over there with the Spurs and shit. You know what I'm saying? Like, it ain't always just... The only team that I really think that I saw that was just playing my turn, your turn, that won a championship was probably LeBron and Kyrie. And their defense was very good. Like, I don't think people realize how great their defense was, because we talk about their offense so much and how great Kyrie and LeBron were offensively. People don't really talk about how good their defense was. Like, I remember telling people multiple times the year after that, like, yo, do people realize how good a defender that J.R. Smith is? Like, I kept telling people, like, I don't think people realize how good a defender that J.R. Smith is. Like, this motherfucker be actually locking people down sometimes. Like, a lot of times. And he stay in front of his man a lot of times. He got good recovery when he can't stay in front of his man. Like, J.R. Smith wasn't getting enough credit for how good a defender he was. People was talking about how he can go on these hot streaks and shit. People it's crazy how people was just leaving that part of his game out, because he was a decent defender. Iman Shumpert, people did talk about Iman Shumpert's defense, though. But yeah, Brooklyn about to be on one. Like I said, that's not the team that I'm picking to win it all in the East. I still pretty much got the Bucks going to the finals, because I have no faith in James Harden. Something always seemed to be wrong with Joel Embiid around these times. Plus, I do like Joel Embiid, but I haven't watched. I'm gonna start watching them more in the playoffs. I plan on watching the 76ers when they're in the playoffs. I want to see how Joel look late in these games in the playoffs and shit. Like, I want to see what his energy and shit like. If he start having that sickness and the tummy aches and shit like that going into the playoffs, man, that's all bad, man. That's we can't do nothing with that. We can't do anything with that. But I'm excited. I saw the Grizzlies locked up the playoffs tonight. They locked up their playoff spot. I'm excited for the playoffs to come around, but here we go with this Warrior bullshit again, man. I'm getting worried, man. The Warriors not looking too great. I know Jordan Poole just dropped that big game, and even more evidence to me as to why they should be traded, packaging him, Wiggins, and Wiseman to go out and try to get a Paul George. I know you can't get Paul George, but to go get somebody like that. A Bradley Beal, possibly. Or shit. Is it even a big... You know who I think would be real good in Golden State coming off the bench? Kevin Love. Kevin Love and Melo would be so great coming off of the bench in Golden State. But for some reason, Golden State refuses to go out and get those type of players now. Like, I don't know why. Because if they was on a good contract, like if you could afford them and put them on decent contracts, Kevin Love and Melo would make so much sense coming off of the bench for this team. They could be big scoring options for this team coming off the bench. And you putting them on the floor with Curry, Melo would get a shit ton of open looks, as would Kevin Love. That would be insane. And maybe I'm just fantasy booking in my head, but that shit to me would be insane. Melo, K-Love, and it's another dude who I think Porzingis. Like, if Porzingis was on a contract that was a very good contract for them, if he was on that, I think they could bring him in, and they could pull him on the bench and have him coming out of the starting lineup at times. The way the Warriors play could be conducive to Kristaps. The only problem is, can the motherfucker stay healthy? Now, I haven't been watching too much Kristaps lately, so I can't really tell you if he done been healthy or not. Shit, I could even see Kyle Kuzma being a good fit with the Warriors if he could buy into playing with the Warriors system. And I think he would play in the Warriors system, because the Warriors system wouldn't have him just standing in the corner. That's why I think some dudes enjoy playing with Steph and the Warriors, because it ain't like they just telling these dudes to go over and stand in the corner. And if another superstar come over, it's a great chance that Steph Curry gonna let him be great. Like, he not gonna be like, okay, play in my shadow. Nah, he probably gonna try to take the back seat so the dude can shine and have his glow. He gonna just try to play off of Buddy. He be like, hey, you shine, buddy. I can play off of you. Trust me, I played off of KD. I can play off of you. You know what? Fuck it. Calling in the big guns. Golden State need to try to get LeBron. Golden State need to try to trade the Lakers, Jordan Poole, and Wiseman for Bron. That's the move. Telling you right now, that's the move. Ja Morant supposed to be tested in 2 weeks to see where that knee at. Listen, I hope Ja get right, man. My man's love Ja. My bro, he love Ja. That's his guy. I'm hoping Ja get right. I like Ja too. Ja need to stop bullshitting and go ahead and compete in that dunk contest. I'm just waiting for the year where the All-Star game hit on every single event again. Like, oh man, that's going to be one of the best shows when I can come on here and talk about an NBA All-Star weekend where every single event went hard. And that's not counting the Celebrity All-Star game, because that is not a part of All-Star weekend in my mind. That game will probably never go hard again. But just imagine a day where that game even is exciting to watch. Like, once they figure all that shit out, like I said, bro, just go ahead and do the ESPN, these Fox big mouth ass employees, and match them up against some pros, bro, or some former pros. And let's see and let's get it cracking. Let's see what all that mouth do. Let's see what all that talking get you. All that analyzing over these years. Let's see what that do for you. Put Richard Jefferson old ass out there on the other team. Put Perk out there on the other team. Shit, put Shannon out there on the other team. Ain't nobody getting away from catching these L's. Put Skip ass on one of them team. Put Stephen A ass on the other team. Put fucking Nick Wright big mouth ass on the other team. Put Colin Cowherd on the other team. All of them. Now, I like a lot of the female analysts, so put Joy on the pros team. Put Maria Taylor on the. Hey, if you get Maria Taylor out there, you already know you got to get Rachel Nichols out there. What the fuck happened to Rachel Nichols, yo? Now, I'm not on here about to start no crusade on bring Rachel Nichols back. I'm just very interested to see what the fuck happened. Or I'm not even really interested. It just popped up in my mind like, yo, where the fuck is Rachel Nichols, when I thought of Maria Taylor. But, you know, if it's no answer for that, it ain't gonna bother me none. I probably won't even think of it after this, so, you know. But I'm excited for football season. I'm going to be honest with you, could care less about the draft. I'll talk about it. Not really caring too much about the draft. It feel like the draft don't really have as much hype going into it as it do in previous years. I don't know if it's just this draft class ain't bringing in the type of hype that the previous draft classes have, or if I'm just not paying too much attention to the draft this year. But yeah, I'm going to watch the draft. I watch the draft every year. I hate that they do that shit on Fridays, because I be trying to watch it. Actually, I'm not even too mad that they do it on Fridays, because I'll watch Friday Night SmackDown and then when our pick come on, Baltimore, who usually is picking in the 20s, then I'll end up switching over real fast and watching it. Or if it's on ESPN like it usually is, I just throw it on the app on the phone and then pull it up on my phone while I'm watching wrestling on the TV. So I'm going to watch the draft this year, but I can't really talk to you about the top prospects and this like that, because like I said, listen, you done heard me say it too many times. I do not watch college sports. I've been seeing people talk about it on Twitter like, oh, college refereeing in these March Madness tournaments has been so bad. Yeah, that's why I stopped watching college basketball. Because for some reason, these fucking referees think that we come here to see them blow these whistles and dictate these games. And clearly the NCAA is doing nothing about it. After that North Carolina game a couple years back against that team where it was all them whistles blown in that game, where it felt like the momentum was getting constantly killed by the ref, or everything was being dictated by the whistles, that's when I thought the NCAA would have stepped in and did something and said something. They didn't. And then you had a mixed bag the next day. For the most part, yeah, a lot of the analysts that got on TV spoke about how bad the officiating was. But I vividly remember Colin Cowherd getting on TV and saying that he had no problem with the officiating and basically was backing the officiating. And I was like, this is a problem, because last night was so very clearly a problem with the officiating. And if everybody not getting on here saying that it was a problem, then the NCAA will be fine with picking and choosing the little interviews and the people who say that it was no problem and letting that play all through the stadiums so that they don't have to pay attention to the fact that refereeing in college sports is a problem, specifically in college basketball. Because the reason I don't watch college football is not because of the referees. Now, college football referees might be bad. Don't know. I just don't enjoy the college football product. I think the college football product is nothing like the NFL product. Nothing. Like, I do not enjoy college football in the slightest. Like, dead ass. Some people might enjoy, and it's not just because of the points. And it's not even just because I thought at one point in time it was because I was conditioned to see low-scoring games in the NFL. No, I get very excited when an NFL team throw up 40, 50-something fucking points. Hey, God forbid the motherfucker throw up 60-something points a game. I enjoy that. I remember one year when I was watching the fucking Patriots slaughter some team in the snow. Either it was the Raiders or the Bears. I can't remember who it was, but they was destroying. They was beating the shit out of a team so bad in the snow they took the game off of the air and starting in the second half. Like, it was a fucking ass whooping, and I enjoyed that. I enjoy when teams get their ass whooping in the NFL because it rarely happens. In college football, you see teams get their ass whooped on a regular basis. You done seen teams throw up 70, 80 fucking points. I'm pretty sure you can throw up highlights and pictures of teams throwing up 100 points at some point in time. To me, college football is so uncompetitive at times. It's so sloppy at times. It makes no sense. You see shit happen in college football that you know won't happen in the NFL. One of the things that bother me so much about college football is when I see quarterbacks do that hand clap shit. Like Jalen Hurts and Kyler Murray did that shit a lot in college, and they still do it in the NFL sometimes, where they like, obviously I'm not on video so you can't see it, but it's the hand clap thing they do before the hike. I hate that shit because that's a college thing that I see a lot of college quarterbacks do. And so and then you see but I see the offenses in college, like Stanford with Andrew Luck ran a pro style offense. Okay, that's cool. I like watching that. Clemson's offense with Deshaun Watson wasn't a goofy ass college offense. Okay, decent. I can watch that. Alabama do a lot of the run heavy offenses, but even then with Jalen Hurts and shit they was done. Like, I hated our offense with Jalen Hurts, dead ass. I understand they won one national championship off of that, but they lost another one because of it. And almost lost another one if not for Tua coming in and saving them. But to me, college football is just bad. It's a joke, to be completely honest with you. I'm happy for the dudes who get paid for it now, but when they get to the NFL, that's the real game. Like, to me, college football is just, to me, it's a lot of things that college football, now I don't even know if I want to say a lot. It is aspects of college football that can get you ready for the next level, especially certain colleges that have so many different pros or former pros in the organization and whatnot. Like, I used to go to Campbell University, and the head coach of the football team is Mike Minter. And the quarterback's coach, I believe, or the offensive coordinator now is Pat White. So, like, you go to a lot of these different organizations, and trust me, ain't nobody confusing Campbell with, like, Alabama, Clemson, LSU, and nothing like that. But I can see how being in those type of environments could get you ready on some aspects or on some levels for the NFL. But the college game in general, like, you got some of these great teams playing against garbage can teams on a regular basis. You got quarterbacks playing against defenses that don't have not one NFL ready player on the defense. You seeing some of these teams get mopped out by teams who got no all pro level players on their offense. Like, You looking at offenses throw up like 50 plus points with dudes on their offense who you know. Shit, Tebow was a legend in college. Look at what Tebow was in the NFL. Jamarcus Russell. I mean, there's so many players that have success in college where it does not translate in NFL. Like some of the most successful college players didn't translate in the NFL. Most people didn't even know who the fuck Aaron Donald was coming out of Pittsburgh. Look at him in the NFL. So, to me, college ain't really... you can guess somebody great just based off of how you look at their individual tape alone. I think college is one of the things where individual greatness is something that matters a lot. Like, you can tell how great somebody is probably most of the time just based off of how great they are individually, not based off of the team success and shit like that. It's the reason you don't see a bunch of Alabama quarterbacks walking around in NFL as all pro quarterbacks. But, But the next episode, no, fuck that. But I talk about it now. I'm telling you how I think the AFC gonna go. Alright, I can't remember how many positions in the AFC, but I'm finna tell you my AFC ranking for the 2022-2023 season. Bet. I think the team that's gonna finish in first place in the AFC is gonna be the LA Chargers. After some time to think about it, after some time deliberating, after some time, to really hammer this thing out, it was between them and the Oakland Raiders for me. And at the end of the day, I think that Brandon Staley is a good head coach, even though I did a lot of talking shit about Brandon Staley this year. It really wasn't talking shit. It was just like, come on, man. I don't even care that you're going for it on these fourth downs and shit, but some of these decisions is just goofy. And ultimately, you cost your team at the end of the year a playoff spot. However, I like Brandon Staley more than I like Josh McDaniels. I like Justin Herbert. I love Derek Carr, but I do think Justin Herbert is the better quarterback. While I think Devontae Adams is the better receiver than the two receivers on the Chargers still have an all-pro receiver in Keenan Allen, and who could be possibly an all-pro level receiver in Mike Williams, who was a phenomenal number 2, a phenomenal number 1 in Keenan Allen. I like their running back in Austin Eckler because he is a receiving back type of running back, not necessarily because I think he is a great every down running back who really moving the chains and doing what Ezekiel Elliott, Cook can do. Like, I'm not saying he that type of back, but he is a back that is productive for the system that he is in and what the Chargers ask him to do. So the Chargers, to me, is going to be the team that finish in first place in the AFC this year. And I kind of want to say the teams that's going to have the best record because, like, let's say I think the Raiders finish with the second best record in the NFL this year. I mean, in the AFC. But they still wouldn't finish in second place in the AFC's rankings because they would be in the same division as the Chargers. So they couldn't finish in a higher place than I think like fifth. Because the other 3 spots would be taken by the other 3 division leaders. So, with that in mind, I'm not going to go off. No, I am going to go off of that. So, that make this kind of easier because now I'm just predicting the first 4 teams as division leaders. But the team that I think will finish in second. So, that means that I think not only will the Chargers win their division, I think they're going to finish with the best team. I mean, with the best record out of all the teams that finish first in their divisions. Meaning they will finish first, in my opinion. And they will have a better record or own a tiebreaker with a team in a division just in case they finish with the same record as a team in a division. Ultimately, to finish in first place in the AFC. The team that finishes second in the AFC, in my opinion, will be the Baltimore Ravens. Now, I think I done talked a lot about Baltimore on this channel, how I don't think they do enough for Lamar. But I think Lamar Jackson will be back and healthy. I think the offensive line will be back improved and healthy in areas. I think the receiving core and the running backs will be back and healthy, and the defense, most importantly, will be well, not more importantly than Lamar, but they will be back and healthy. And most importantly, Lamar Jackson himself will be back and healthy. And if Lamar is back and healthy with all his weapons back and healthy, and the defense back and healthy, I believe this team will be playing at a Super Bowl contending level all year. And I think Lamar Jackson is about to put on another MVP type of year, because this is about to be one of those, oh, you forgot about me type of years where y'all talked a lot of shit when I fell off last year because of injuries and shit. And I had a lot of people on my team hurt, and I still had us in first place in AFC. And y'all still was praying on my downfall. But don't worry about it, because I'm healthy now and I'm back. So I think it's going to be that type of year. I do believe that the Baltimore Ravens will win the AFC North. And I don't think that the Baltimore Ravens will finish with the second best record in the AFC. I just believe they will win the AFC North. And because they'll win the AFC North, I think they'll end up having a better record than the AFC East team and the AFC South team. Now, the team that I think will finish in third in the AFC. No. I want to switch that. I think Baltimore is going to finish third in the AFC East. I think the Buffalo Bills is going to finish in second in the AFC East. Let me change that. So all that shit I said about Baltimore, yeah, that's why I think they're going to finish in third. The Buffalo Bills are going to finish in the second in the AFC to me. And I know some people think, like, why wouldn't the Bills? Because some people think the Bills are going to finish in first place. No. I know the Bills' running game is good in areas. It looked good down the stretch last year. I still don't think they have a reliable enough running game, and I think the Chargers will have a better all-around offense and defense. So I think ultimately they'll finish in first this year. Plus, Justin Herbert could have a breakout MVP this year. Josh Allen, to me, could also have a breakout MVP year, which is why they could end up tying with or falling just one game short of the record with the Chargers. That'll put them in second place. I love Josh Allen. I love the Bills. I love how they ran. I love the coach and all that. Stephon Diggs is that guy. I like Dawson Knox, even though I do think they should have brought over another tight end to help Dawson out a little bit, because I do think he was a little shaky in them playoff games. However, the other dude, Gabriel, stepped up. They have other options around him, even though they did let Cole Beasley go. You bring over a stud like Von Miller. Ed Oliver should grow even more this year. You got a lot of different pieces on the defense in that secondary. Michael Hyde, Jordan Poyer, Tre'Davious White. You got a good secondary. Johnson. You got good secondary. So you hoping they can continue to improve. But listen, to me, Buffalo going to be a Super Bowl contending team this year. Josh Allen will take just yet another step and continue to prove why he is that guy. So I think the Buffalo Bills are actually going to finish in second in the AFC this year. And I think the Ravens are going to finish in third. So fourth in the AFC this year. Now, this one was actually the toughest one for me to decide, because it was between the Colts and the Titans. And even though ultimately I do kind of, and it's tough, man, because I watched the Falcons last year, and just off of just what I've seen and what I know off of the recent years, I want to say take the Titans. And no, not even just that I want to take the Titans. I want to say that I trust Matt Ryan less than I trust Tannehill. And I know how bad Tannehill it was at times, but when Tannehill is not the dude that you need to rely on, then Tannehill know how to fill his role. It's just so, man, this is a tough decision, because I know Matt Ryan is a greater quarterback historically, career-wise, than Tannehill. I get that. But where Matt Ryan is right now in his career and the weapons that he has, I mean, I just don't see him being that much better than he was when he was with the Falcons. Because you can make an argument the tight end with the Falcons is better than every weapon he has right now with the Colts. That's what I'm struggling with. If this was Matt Ryan in his prime, yeah, I'd probably take him, even though it'd still be a hard take, because Matt Ryan in his prime, Matt Ryan throughout the majority of his career had weapons, elite weapons. So this is a tough one. I think what's gonna make me take this is I think Variable is a better coach than Frank Reich. And I think if Derrick Henry is healthy, then that will be enough to get them that division. And I trust Derrick Henry more than I trust Tannehill and Matt Ryan at this point. Now, Taylor is a great running back, but I think Derrick Henry is the best running back. And so, ultimately, while these two teams they have the two best running backs in the NFL, I think the Titans will take this division. So I think the Titans will finish 4th in the AFC. Now, here's the thing. Whichever team win this division, the other team is not making the playoffs. I do not think these two teams will win enough games to be able to get two teams out of this division. I also do not believe that Patriots division will have two teams come out of it this year. Unless the Patriots get an easy schedule, I don't believe they come out of this division this year. I believe the Patriots miss the playoffs for the simple reason the team that I think will finish in 5th in the division, in the AFC this year, is the Oakland Raiders. The Oakland Raiders with Derek Carr, Devontae Adams, Josh Jacobs, Keenan Drake, or Carryon Drake. I'm hating that I cannot remember how you pronounce this man's first name or exactly what his first name is. But I know his last name is Drake and he a big dog. Hunter Renfrow, Darren Waller, the defense that they got with Chandler Jones and Max Crosby now. Like, the Raiders are going to be a problem. I do not understand the people who think that the Raiders are going to be the same old joke Raiders or not a good Raiders team this year. Like, nah. The Raiders are about to be a good team. And maybe this is one of them things where you got to see it to believe it. But to me, if you look at this roster on paper, it is just no shot that this team is about to be bad unless Derek Carr is just not a good quarterback this year. That's the only way this can fail. Because this is going to be a nightmare for teams lining up against this shit every week. So, it's not just on offense either. On defense, too, trying to stop Max Crosby and Chandler Jones if they can stay healthy. So, I think the Raiders finish in 5th place in the AFC this year. 6th place in the AFC this year. Now, these two spots is tough because you got Cincinnati, you got Cleveland, you got Denver, you got the Chiefs. This is a tough fucking thing because 2 of these teams is getting left off the list. So this is very, very, very tough. And I'm going to get heat for whichever one. Well, I'm not big enough yet, but if I was a big enough channel at the moment, I would get a lot of heat for whichever teams I leave off of this list. And the teams that I put on the list. So it's going to be hard whichever one I leave off the list. But the team that I think is going to finish in 6th in the AFC this year is going to be the motherfucking Broncos. Yes, see, I was going back and forth for this one because I thought it was either going to be the Broncos or the Browns. But I do not know. Okay, so what's hard about predicting the Browns is I don't know if Deshaun Watson going to play the majority of the season, if he going to miss any games, if he going to miss every game, if he going to miss 6, 7, 8 games. I don't know what's going on with the Deshaun Watson situation yet. So when we find out if he's going to play games or if he's going to miss games, then that will give me a better understanding on where I think Cleveland will be. But because I'm not completely certain on if he is playing a full season yet, like I'm just taking into account that he could possibly be playing but not a full season, that's why I'm probably ultimately picking all 3 of them teams. And even if I leave one of them other ones off, those 3 teams will probably get a nod over Cleveland right now. So I'm basically telling you that Cleveland not going to make this last spot either. But with that 6th spot, I do believe that the Denver Broncos are going to make the motherfucking playoffs this year. Yes, I think that Jerry Jeudy going to have a breakout year this year. I think Russell Wilson going to have one of his better years in the NFL because he finally playing with an offensive-minded head coach. Now, listen, Nathaniel Hackett didn't call plays when he was in Green Bay. And Green Bay's offense was more of a run-style type of offense, more so than a pass-heavy type of offense. But I do think Nathaniel Hackett is going to bring out a lot of great in Russell Wilson because Russell Wilson has never played in an offensive-minded system. In a pass-minded system. The offensive coordinators he's played with have been heavily run guys. The head coach he played with was a defensive guy. Like Russell Wilson is now playing with an offensive-minded head coach who is going to want to let Russ cook. He now has a Jerry Jeudy, a Tim Patrick, a Cortland Sutton, I cannot remember the tight end they have at the moment, but eventually they'll go get one. They do have that dude over there with the last name that I can't pronounce. You have Melvin Gordon and Lindsey. So I think that the Broncos, because I like Russell Wilson, not even that I like him, I just think Russell Wilson is a great quarterback, and I think people sleeping on Russell Wilson. So I think they finish in 6. Now I think it's 7 spots in the AFC, right? Now this one was tough because it did come. I just said the last one was tough, but this one was also tough because it came down to Cincinnati and the Bengals. And whichever team I fucking leave off the list, people was gonna be like, "Yo, how in the fuck could you leave off Patrick Mahomes? How in the fuck could you leave off Joe Burrow and they just got to a Super Bowl?" I understand it. And if I put Pat Mahomes on the list, I'm basically telling you that every single team in the AFC West is gonna make the playoffs. And if I put the Bengals on the list, I'm basically telling you that the Kansas City Chiefs are going to finish last in their division, which I done already told you that, but I'm basically reaffirming that. So with that being said, as a matter of fact, before I get to that, let me go ahead and spark this up real quick. I think the AFC team that finishes in 7th place in the division, in the AFC, not the division, in the conference this year, it's going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I think every single team in the AFC West is going to make it to the playoffs this year. I haven't seen the schedules. Maybe I'll pull up the schedules later and do a whole show on the breakdown of the schedules and the games that I think they'll win. But at this current moment, I am predicting that the Cincinnati Bengals will be missing the playoffs this year. And I don't think they're going to miss it because they'll be a bad team. I do think they'll take a step back this year, but I don't think they'll be a bad team. I just think the AFC West might have 4 teams that finish with double-digit wins. I truly feel like that. The quarterbacks in this division, the AFC West, the defenses in this division, aside from the Chiefs, to me are so much improved, so much better, that I really think the AFC West can pile together 4 teams with at least 10 wins. And I think it'll be more than 10 wins, to be honest with you. I think it'll be at least 11 or 12 for each win, for each team. I think at the end of the day, what it came down to was Cincinnati's defense. I don't really think it's like, even though I did give them a lot of credit throughout the playoffs, I don't really see the pass rusher. Well, they do have a pass rusher, but I think those dudes might take a step back this year. They're not, to me, as great as the dudes in the AFC West pass rushers. But to me, the defense takes a step back this year, as does Kansas City's defense. To me, at the end of the day, it's going to come down to Pat Mahomes and Joe Burrow. And while I do like Joe Burrow's weapons more, and I kind of do trust his weapons a little bit more, I think I'm not quite ready to bet against Pat Mahomes. And that's really what it come down to, because everything in me wanted to take the Bengals and leave the Chiefs out. And maybe when I do this again before the season actually start, maybe I'll be at that situation and at that point where I'm ready to leave the Chiefs off, but I'm not, or Pat Mahomes and bet against Pat Mahomes. But I'm not ready to do that yet. So I'm not going to. So with that being said, I appreciate you for joining me on another episode of Kicking It With Saint. Man, it's been a ride. Hey, man, tell somebody you fuck with them. Tell somebody you love them. Make somebody's day. I appreciate you for joining me. I fuck with you. I love you. Have a dope fucking day, night, afternoon, whichever point in time of the day you're listening to this shit. Saint out.
Why is success a bad thing? Why, if you're a millionaire, you're evil. If you're a billionaire, you're the Antichrist. Why? Because of their pathetic jealousy. That's all it is, jealousy. Seth, you're worried that some people don't like you in the locker room? Hell, if you ain't making enemies, you ain't making money. If everybody doesn't hate you, then you are not living up to your full potential. And everybody here wants to say, well, at least you'll sleep well at night. Sleep? Who has time for sleep? I would rather eat well than sleep well. I would rather drive a nice car, fly in a private plane, live in a mansion, live the good life, Seth. You get one shot at life, one shot, one go around in this world. You take life and you grab it by the throat and you make it give you everything you want and screw everybody else.